Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Esports News, Axis Rotation, however the flip you know me on these interwebs. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys a quick preview of what to expect going into Major 1 today in Madrid, Spain. If you're going, please be safe and have a good time. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. So what I'm going to do is look at both teams in each matchup in chronological order, of course, and just see their recent form and what I'm thinking. So looking at Faze first, of course, looking at their most recent matches, they won Minor 1, so that was a great way for them to come out of the break because, of course, we all know they went 0-3 going into the break with the lone win against Vegas Falcons, which most people kind of didn't count. I mean, obviously they were 1-3 going into the break, but they lost their three most important series against the three contenders here being Ultra, Thieves, and Ravens. So people were like, okay, are they good? Like, what's going on? But, you know, they came out, one Minor won all of it. They won 4 series in a row, and then they beat Rokkr as they should, 3-1. 3-0'd Breach in their most recent series before this one. And then, of course, in their last series on Sunday, they got a Game 5 over Cloud9, which was way too close for comfort. Attached hitting insane nades where it's draws.
Attached hitting
So,
insane nades.
looking at their recent form and just their overall team stats, obviously their last 5 games they've won. Cell is a 1.15, Simp is a 1.08. And yeah, I mean, everybody's just been doing their job across the board. They've looked very solid. Abizi's the only player who's been possibly a step behind at times, but it's Abizi. I don't expect that to really persist too long. If you guys want to pause here and look at some of their picks and vetoes as well as their map record, I'm not going to get into everything right there. Chrome is not liking all this data usage. So we're going to get on the Boston Breach. Looking at their most recent matches, they've been doing really well this season. They are currently sitting in 5th in the CDL standings right above Faze. Honestly, their most recent loss was to Faze, but other than that, they haven't lost since Minor 1. Obviously, it was a single LM, so not really a big deal. But only losing to Optic and Faze is very encouraging for the Boston Breach. In terms of like where I would place them in this tournament, in terms of like their actual power, if you want to do like a power ranking, man, I'd put them pretty high. They've only lost to, I mean, they beat Optic, obviously, in their opening match of the season, right? So that was with Pred, but, you know, I mean, shoot, they played them pretty tight the last time, and they beat Thieves. So, you know, Boston's a really good team. Do not sleep on them, certainly on LAN. I feel like they're going to get better, especially Wake, Cammy, and Purge. Those guys are all solid on LAN, so I expect them to really pitch in and do their part to help Snoopy. So yeah, I feel like they're going to really perform a little bit better when they get to LAN, and I feel like they're really going to be a dark horse to get maybe a top 4. So yeah, I mean Snoop, he's definitely been performing really well. Look at that 1.08 in a sea of red. So their win conditions definitely get Snoopy a little bit more help on the map. And looking at the pretty even slang that you had for Faze, I think it's a pretty easy 3-1 if you're looking at it realistically. It's just not enough teamwork for me to put too much faith in anything other than that. Looking at our next series, we have the Toronto Ultra taking on the Vancouver Surge. Yeah, and looking at the most recent matches from the Ultra Boys, it's been interesting, honestly. I've been high on the Ultra all year ever since they beat Faze. That was kind of a signal to me that they might be one of the top contenders in this game. And they've really proven that throughout the rest of the stage. Obviously, they beat Surge, as you guys can see, then Falcons, then Heretics, then Rokkr, then LAG. So you could argue that their difficulty of schedule leaves a lot to be desired because it absolutely does, other than really Surge and Heretics and Rokkr. Yeah, I mean, not really a lot of super encouraging opponents there. And then they lost to Rokkr at Minor 1. I mean, yeah, I mean, Ultra look great, but this matchup is not super strong for them because these two teams are playing for the second time. I don't know. The rubber match is always difficult to predict, especially since, let's look at Vancouver Surge, because I feel like, honestly, Ultra's just been all over the place. I know I sound faded, but they've just been a little all over the place for my liking. Like, a lot of their series have not been as clean as I would like. The slaying has not been as clean as I would really expect it to be for that team. So they have some things to figure out. I feel like on LAN it'll definitely get a little bit more consistent for Ultra. But I feel like Surge will also get more consistent on LAN too, because Hixie, Nasty, Abuza, and O4 are all great LAN players, it has to be said. And they're on a 3-game win streak. So getting a 3-2 over really hot Ravens and Rokkr teams, They obviously went 2-0 in a weekend. I expect them to go 1-1. So I'm high on Surge, man. I'm really feeling them right now. Ultra, man, I like Ultra, but I don't know how much. I don't know how much. I expect them to handle business against Surge. Let me say that. But if they see each other again in this bracket, I will not. I will absolutely tip Surge. I will absolutely tip them. So we're going to say Game 5 Ultra. Oh my God. Game 5. Nah, we're going to say Game 5 Surge. Are we going to lock in Game 5 Surge? After the Optic 3-1, why not? Call of Duty's a momentum-based game. Ultra's going to LAN. Yeah, we're going to say 3-2 Ultra. Yeah, actually, it's a momentum-based game, so that's why we get the 3-2 for Ultra. That's why we get the Game 5. All right, fair. Okay, on to the next series, guys. We have Carolina taking on the LA Thieves. So looking at Carolina's form, it's been all over the place. You guys know I've been kind of saying ever since the bubble essentially popped, I call it the Dirty Bubble series against Atlanta Faze, as you guys saw in a recent video. Season was really weird, and I was like, when is this bubble going to pop? And it did. So Boston popped the bubble. Let's look at how they did it. The Dirty Bubble, it must be said. This is like the Dirty Bubble in that NFL game where, who was it that was playing? Somebody was playing the Texans. The Dirty Bubble abducted somebody, and then they didn't score. Like, they lost like 30. I feel like this Ravens team has just kind of come back to orbit. Like, I feel like they were out of here in the first few weeks, but I don't know. I feel like after like teams had time to readjust coming out of the break, I feel like things are a little bit more figured out. Everybody knows how they want to play the game a little bit more, and you can't just do the TJ Hallie and Gwyn cheese where you just have these two pop off and go crazy. Like looking at the season stats, right? Slasher, TJ, and Gwyn are all popping off, but typically in the series it's TJ and Gwyn. Slasher's definitely had some great performances, but TJ and Gwyn have just been a force. So looking at their recent form, I mean, they're obviously 5-2 in Major 1. They looked great. Their recent form does leave a lot to be desired, though, right? Because if you look at the actual, what the real data is telling us, coming out of the break, right, they looked great at Minor 1. They beat C9, who they should beat. They beat Optic Texas, which is an upset, very typical. They lost to Faze, and Faze dominated them. And then, when we come into the quals, Boston Breach, they squashed them. Vancouver Surge, beat them in a Game 5. Heartbreaker round 11, yes, but it shouldn't have gotten to Game 5 if this was the Carolina of old. And it must be said, they went to Game 5 against Heretics, and it wasn't really a super strong showing where Heretics pushed them. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of room for Ravens to have the upset here, but as it stands, I feel like the Thieves, even with their struggles, this should be a pretty solid series for them. I feel like this is a very solid, like, confident series for them. Obviously, their 3 losses in recent matches have come against Breach, Optic, and Faze, who I think are really 3 of the 4 better teams in this game, along with Thieves. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I have said on multiple occasions, I feel like Thieves coming out of the break with the removal of Rewind from the map pool, I feel like they've just been struggling a lot. So I feel like that is an inlet for the Ravens to have a pathway to victory, but I just feel like the slang for Thieves, I feel like they'll have a mismatch to exploit the entire time because Vivid has been getting dominated in the kill column. I mean, he has a .92 on the season, and let's look at the Thieves stats, right? The lowest, I mean, Envoy's .96 with the lowest stats on the Thieves side. And you expect all these guys to really be monsters on LAN. Yeah, I think it's a pretty decisive 3-1 for Thieves. Anything can happen. TJ and Gwyn obviously have been playing really well, must be said, but I feel like Thieves just get it done, and I feel like they get it done pretty comfortably. So in our last matchup of the day, we have Optic versus Miami Heretics. This is always an interesting one at Major 1, especially on LAN. Vehicle, the ghost of Vehicle, I guess, will be there. I hope not if you're an Optic fan, right? You hope the ghost of Vehicle isn't there because he so famously said, what?
Fuck Optic, fuck the green wall.
But yeah, so looking at this one, Optic's form has been incredible. Obviously, they have played, let's see, 3 and 7, 10 series on the year, and they're currently 8-2. So, Optic look phenomenal. I have them getting to the finals in my mind before we get there. But yeah, I mean, looking at their form, going into the break, they looked good. Obviously, after AG was taken out of the mix in place of Hook, they looked a lot better and a lot more comfortable. But even coming out of the break with Hook, they've looked a lot better. Hook has looked to be the best player in the game at multiple points. So is Shotzi. I mean, they're just trading back and forth, right? Like, look at their stats. Hook has a 1.18, Dashy's a 1.14, Shotzi's a 1.2, Kenny's a .91, so whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're just frying. The whole team's frying. And like I said, they're 8-2 on the season, guys. Like, it's hard to really bet against Optic in any scenario. Heretics, they have looked great. Honestly, they looked really good. But yeah, I don't really think that they're going to necessarily beat the green wall losing game fives against Thieves and Ravens, who are both kind of on a bit of a skid coming out of the break. And also, close game five win against Cloud9, who are getting famously online cheesed, is not like really that encouraging either. So I'm not seeing anything that tells me like the upset is nigh, but it's possible. Maybe. I just feel like Optic, they come out, they really want to get some momentum on their side early in the season and an early land performance, and it's Optic, right? Like, I feel like they're just going to handle business. So that means on Friday, we will kick things off at 8:30 a.m. Good Lord, that is early. Wow, that's like around the time I'm getting ready to go to work. But yeah, so looking at it, we have the Battle of the Birds, I guess. So the Falcons versus the Ravens. Let's look at the Falcons, their team stats. Let's see, who do I think is playing this weekend? I think Dahum probably plays, Exnit probably plays, King, maybe Roxas. I don't know. Falcons, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're good on land, but looking at it, these guys have won one, two, three, four maps on the season. So yeah, I mean, it's not really looking too, yeah, it's not looking too encouraging for them. Yeah, we're just gonna say 3-0 there. Like, out of respect to the Falcons, I don't think that their constant like revolving door system at the moment is really panning out how they need it to. I think coming out of Major One, they'll probably like have some things figured out, but at the moment, I don't know. I just don't think it's in the cards to win a single map. So that means in our next series we would have Vancouver taking on the Minnesota Rokkr. This is an interesting one. Oof. I feel like, ooh, good lord. These guys just had a round 11 recently. Yikes. Yeah, their last series, Rocker's last series of the stage was a round 11 L against the Surge Boys. That's a tough call, man. Let's look at the team stats here, because that's the only thing that's really going to like make a difference. I mean, Paul X has a .84 on the season. Nero has a .98. I feel like his impact is not told by his KD, or really, I don't feel like his impact is communicated clearly by his KD. Estriel's been Mr. Do-It-All, and Geo's been right there with them, so I feel like those guys are probably going to kick up on land a little bit more. Surge Boys, I feel like they're going to do well, but I don't know. Yeah, man, this is a rough one. Let's look at recent form for Rokkr. They looked good at Minor 1. They beat Ultra and Gorillas, but maybe they overperformed at Minor 1 because coming out of the break, they lost to Ultra, they lost to Faze, they lost to Surge. Yeah, I think they had a couple overperformances in their series against Ultra and LAG. Overperformed against Boston early on. Yeah, I mean, even going into the break, Thieves, bodied. Ultra coming out of the break, bodied. Faze bodied out of the break, and same with Surge. Yeah, I'm gonna back Surge here. 3-2. I feel like they're just a little bit more realistic to back in that scenario. Which means that in our next series, we will have the LA Gorillas mates taking on Miami Heretics. So looking at the recent form for LAG, they got their first and second series wins of the year against the C9 boys with a hot 3-0 and the Vegas Falcons with a hot 3-0. So they live by the 3-0, die by the 3-0, and yeah, I mean, going into the break, it looks like they were a little bit closer. Obviously played Optic tight going into it. Coming out of the break, Rokkr obviously close series loss, and then they beat C9. They lost to Ultra, who are a very solid team. I definitely think Ultra are a little bit better than LAG for certain. Then they beat Falcons, who they should. So against a team like Miami Heretics, they're playing at home. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the home crowd cheese. I feel like Miami with the home vibes. I mean, yeah, the likely thing is LAG prove me wrong. I hope they do, but yeah, I feel like Miami playing at home, the storylines just they support that. So in our next series, that would mean that we would see C9 playing Boston. Oh, good lord, barbecue chicken and rice. All right, man. I feel like I'm sorry, Toronto. I feel like C9 is going to get better on land, guys, but I don't know. Their online performances have not been encouraging. Like, I know they're getting online cheesed, but like, I don't know what to think going into this series. Boston's such a good team. I don't know if C9 is that good to beat them. I don't think so. I think Boston is really good. I feel like they've gotten good reps and they'll make a difference going into LAN. Like, yeah, I don't know. Okay, Miami versus Ravens. This is going to be a tight one. I feel like Ravens take it though. Home cheese. TJ Gwynn cheese. Yeah, TJ Gwynn cheese. All right, let's do that. And then that's everything for Friday. So kicking things off on Saturday, we start with Vancouver versus Boston Breach. I'm thinking Boston takes that one 3-2. I mean, I feel like Boston's just a step ahead of teams like Breach. I feel like they're just a rung ahead. So that means our 10 o'clock series would be what? Optic versus LA Thieves. Yeah, I feel like Optic, with Thieves' recent struggles in respawn, I feel like that'll be a pretty easy one for them. Which means our next series would be Toronto versus Atlanta Faze. I think more of the same on the Faze side. I think Toronto's had a lot of struggles in their respawns lately, like most recently in their last series where Optic absolutely dismantled them in the respawns. So yeah, that's why I have Faze favored here. Which means that in our next series at 1, we would see the LA Thieves taking on the Boston Breach. I think LA gets it done in 5. Next series, we would see the Toronto Ultra trying to go Raven hunting. I think that endeavor will be ultimately successful in a 3-2 fashion. And that means we're moving on to Sunday. Okay, cool. So kicking things off on Sunday, we of course would have the Toronto Ultra taking on the LA Thieves. And I think the Heart Attack Thieves get it done in the game 5 as per usual. And then that means on the winners final side, we have Optic taking on Faze. I think Faze is just better right now. So I have them getting it done 3-1. I feel like Kenny will be the odd man out in a lot of those series against like the top teams. And I feel like when they get up against like a team like Faze, it'll just be too easy for them to exploit that he's having just a rough go of it. If he continues the same struggles that he's had like online. Kenny's a great LAN player, so I don't expect that to happen, but that is the potential pathway that teams will be looking to exploit just based on what has presented itself online. That's the only inlet that they have. So, looking at our next series, we have Optic versus LA Thieves. I feel like Optic is going to be better than LA Thieves. Oof, yeah, this is a tough series, but I do feel like Optic is going to be better than LA Thieves on LAN. I just feel like Thieves map pool, like with rewind removed, is significantly hindered right now. So I feel like that'll be the difference maker. And then in our best of 7 series in the grand finals, I think it'll be FaZe getting it done in a 4-2. Just because I feel like coming out of Minor 1, that was a statement, beating everybody that they needed to, winning 4 series to win that thing, and looking so good doing it. I feel like that was really important coming out of the really rough patch that they had going into the break. So with that in mind, they haven't really seemed to have lost a step. And yeah, I think they continue that momentum, and I think that's how they get the major win. I think that's how they get it locked up. And yeah, I think that's how I'm about to lock it in. Get my bracket predictions all done here. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you don't forget to share it with a friend or someone in your life if you liked it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News, and I will catch you guys, I guess, next week for a recap of Major 1 and what happened, the fallout, and everything in between. So yeah, see you guys then, and yeah, catch you guys on the next video. Peace.